and all, I'm Alexis, aka the Soft Breeder, and I'm here today to do my November favorites video. November ended up a lot different than I thought November was gonna go. So this month, this video, to be honest, is mostly just gonna be me talking about the last couple of years of MCU movies. If you guys don't know, MCU stands for Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it's all of the current Marvel movies that are being made within the same universe. I basically went on a spree this month and watched a lot of them. The first movie I watched this month was Thor Ragnarok, which, I mean, literally, if you look at anybody's review of this movie, you'll know that it was incredible. I loved this movie. It's one of my new favorite Marvel movies, one of my new favorite MCU movies. It's like top 3 for me. I absolutely loved it. I think the most successful thing they did with this movie that made the other 2 previous Thor films so unsuccessful was that this movie didn't take itself seriously. The whole point of this movie was that the movie and the characters and the plot all knew how ridiculous it was. It wasn't supposed to be a serious movie, you know. A lot of the characters really set themselves up for their own jokes. The plot, you're literally going, okay. But it's like, it all works so well because it's so ridiculous, and it knows it's ridiculous. And it works so well. And a lot of the jokes feel so natural, you know, they don't feel stunted or awkward. The characters and the plot really set them up really nicely. A lot of the new characters in this are so good. You know, we've got Tess Thompson doing Valkyrie, Kate Blanchett as the villain in this movie was so good because her character's so ridiculous and she plays it so ridiculously. The director has a couple of cameos in the film too, and one of the characters he plays is literally the best character in the entire movie. It's so good. It's just, it's everything I always wanted a Thor movie to be. It's so good. Like, the biggest complaint people have about this movie is that it's too funny. And that's all you need to know, is that it's too funny. It's so, please go watch Thor Ragnarok, okay? So following that, my brother and I, of course, went and saw Justice League, because, you know, we've all been anticipating Justice League. And I have to be completely honest, it was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Considering I hated Batman v Superman, like, I tear that movie a new one every time somebody brings it up. So I was expecting it to be as bad as Batman v Superman, and personally, I did not think it was. I still think the movie suffers from the same weird editing and pacing that Batman v Superman suffered from, where, like, in the first 20 minutes of Justice League, you were literally introduced to every character in the movie. But it's like 5 minutes of everybody's backstory. So we're reintroduced to Bruce, we're reintroduced to Diana, and then we proceed to get a 5-minute scene about Aquaman. We get a 5-minute scene about Victor, Cyborg, and a 5-minute scene about Barry Allen. And it's like whiplash because you're going, because there's a new scene every 5 minutes, and then the movie proceeds to be 40 minutes of like 20 minutes of like really slow moving plot, and then like a minute of an action sequence, and then more 20 minutes of slow moving plot. So it's like it's such a weirdly paced, weirdly edited movie. And so that's definitely a hindrance to this film. Also, some of the dialogue was really awkward, and I don't know if they meant it to be that way because it's a group of people who've never met before, and so of course their dialogue would be a little stilted. I don't know, but some of the dialogue was a little bit awkward, but I have to say I really liked the action sequences. I thought the action sequences were very entertaining to watch. Sometimes in superhero movies, when you have a lot of people fighting on screen, it can get a little confusing, but I actually found Justice League very easy to follow in these instances. I also will say I adored Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. Like, the Flash is a character that I love wholeheartedly, and like, debatable for each person who their favorite Flash actually is, but I did think Ezra Miller did a really good job playing a young, awkward Barry Allen, and I really liked his performance. It was one of the better parts of the movie. So yeah, where I would give Batman v Superman like a 3 out of 10, I would say, and where I would give Wonder Woman like a 9.5 out of 10, I would say Justice League was about a 6 for me personally. So not great, but not nearly as bad as its predecessor. So after watching Justice League, I really, to be honest, I really wanted to just go rewatch Thor Ragnarok, but I never could make the time to get back to the theater to do that. So I said, hey, I'm gonna rewatch the first 2 Avengers films so I can watch groups of superheroes fighting again. And the first Avengers is one of my favorite MCU films as well. So I rewatched Avengers and I rewatched Avengers Age of Ultron. I still both enjoyed these movies. I do prefer the first one more than I like the second one, but that being said, I do find both really enjoyable. And I had a really good time rewatching them again. And then following watching the Avengers, I said, you know, there's a lot of Marvel movies I haven't seen. For whatever reason, I just never got around to seeing that came out in the last 2 years. And so I said, let's just catch up on all the MCU movies I didn't get to see. And of course I was on holiday break, so I had like a 4-day weekend where I didn't have to work, and that's basically what I did. Following watching the Avengers, then I watched AntMan, which again was an MCU movie I had not previously seen, and I really liked it. It's not one of my new favorites, but I still thought it was a good film. It was a little odd to me when Paul Rudd got casted as the role, just because like I've never looked at Paul Rudd and thought superhero. But again, that's kind of the Ant-Man shtick too. But I found the movie really enjoyable. I found it really cool to watch visually. I also found it funny, and I'm really excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I believe comes out next year. And so watching Ant-Man, I knew that Ant-Man was in Civil War, Captain America Civil War, which, believe it or not, I never saw. And the reason I never saw Civil War is because I never saw The Winter Soldier. So I said, time to change that. So I watched Captain America The Winter Soldier and then proceeded to watch Captain America Civil War. Captain America The Winter Soldier is a good movie. I really like a lot of the world building it does for S.H.I.E.L.D. in the MCU universe. I also have to say, I really feel like I fell in love with Captain America's character in this movie and Chris Evans' portrayal of him. And of course this heavily sets up the events that occur in a couple of later films, mainly being Captain America Civil War, which is also one of my new favorite MCU movies. It's also top 3, so I added 2 new top 3 MCU movies this month. But Captain America Civil War is so good. Not only does it do a lot of character building for pretty much all of the MCU characters, the fight scenes are so cool and they're so much fun to watch, and they're so well choreographed. And then some of them are also so emotionally charged, especially the fight at the end of the film. And so it's like such an emotional journey watching this movie and watching, you know, Cap and Tony go at each other and watching the other Avengers, you know, have to fight to, you know, for reasons. And so yeah, I really liked Civil War. I liked Civil War a lot. I'm so mad at myself that it took me that long to watch Civil War because it was so good. And then the last MCU movie, the last movie period I watched this month was Doctor Strange, because it was the last movie I had not seen, and so I decided to watch it. And I have to be honest, it was just okay for me. A lot of the visuals in this movie are gorgeous. Like, the way that they do a lot of the magic is so beautiful to watch. So the special effects is incredible. But my 2 biggest issues in this movie is that, one, the main character is so unlikable, and I know that that's his character. Stephen Strange is supposed to be an arrogant, self-absorbed man, but it's like, I couldn't root for him because I literally was like, oh my god, dude, really? And it's like, there's something unsatisfying about watching somebody so self-absorbed and so arrogant, and someone who's just such an asshole, to be honest, succeed. You know, it's like, those are typically the characters you don't root for, and this movie's whole point was that you're rooting for him. So like, I couldn't like Stephen Strange, and for that I was just like, well, I don't really care. And also too, I found a lot of the world building for the sorcerers in this movie to be really lackluster. I found myself asking a lot of questions, and this is just, I literally was like, well, why this? well, at what point in the history of this film did this happen? And so, like, meh. I just thought it was okay. It's not the worst MCU movie by far, but it's just a really middle-of-the-road movie for me. Alrighty, so those were all of the movies I watched this month, so I wanted to talk about a couple of the albums I've been listening to. The first one I want to mention is the Ninja Sex Party Under the Covers Volume 2 album. If you guys don't know, Ninja Sex Party is a comedy duo, so they do comedy music like Lonely Island, Flight of the Conchords, that kind of thing. And so last year Ninja Sex Party released a cover album, and it's such a good album, and so we've been eagerly anticipating Under the Covers 2, which came out in October. And yeah, it's a follow-up album, so it's another album of covers, and I really enjoy it. I love Danny's voice so much, and Danny's voice just fits like 80s songs so well. And so I'm not sure if I like it better than the first album, because the first album for me, literally every song on the album is a hit. I am really enjoying listening to Under the Covers 2. I can tell how much work went into it. You can tell how much better Danny and Brian have gotten, and then they have Tupperware Remix Party doing a lot of the background music, and it's such a nice album. Definitely my favorite song is Africa, which is their cover of Africa by Toto, which is a song I love and adore anyway, and so like the pairing was just ultimately like, of course it was going to be great. The next album I want to mention was Sam Smith's new album, which is called The Thrill of It All. I've also been listening to this one quite a lot. Sam Smith's first album, No Good Deed, is one of my favorite albums of all time. I love that album. And so of course I was eagerly anticipating his release of the second album. Same situation, I'm not sure if I like it as much as I like that first album, just because I love that first album so much. But there's definitely a lot of songs on this album, and I find this album is slower than the first one is. This album is very ballad heavy, which I personally do enjoy, and Sam Smith's voice is just so, like, you can hear the yearning and the wistfulness in his voice, and it's so smooth. There's a couple of songs on the album I don't feel like fit his voice really well, just because of the composition, but there are definitely a lot of songs on this album I really like. So my favorite songs on this album are Say It First, No Peace, and Palace. Those are definitely my favorites on the album, but there's a lot of other really strong songs as well. Alrighty guys, so those were all of my November favorites. Again, it was mostly just me talking about everything. You guys should let me know down below what was your favorite movie you saw in the month of November. I upload videos on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I'll see you guys soon with another one. Bye!